Introducing your new best friend.
Hold on. Chucky's a robot now? The first trailer for the reboot of Child's Play came with a surprise. The original was about a serial killer who possessed a doll and then killed a bunch of people. Now, Chucky's a smart toy who finds autonomy and then kills a bunch of people. It seemed odd for a reboot to change the premise of its own story this much, but it actually makes perfect sense. The first movie played on that all-too-real phenomenon of the 80s called Satanic Panic. This one is about the fear of technology. Whether by accident or design, Child's Play is a horror franchise that perfectly encapsulates American moral anxiety, then and now. Child's Play debuted on November 9th, 1988, spawning a big franchise with 6 sequels, comic books, and Jennifer Tilly. It told the story of a serial killer named Charles Lee Ray who, after being shot, performed a voodoo ritual that put his soul in a Cabbage Patch Kids type doll, and then, mass murder. Funny enough, this wasn't the starting pitch. Writer Don Mancini's first script is about a popular kids doll that became a scary version of his owner Andy's id, killing everyone who pissed him off. The whole serial killer possesses a doll thing was added by someone else much later, something Don did not care for, by the way. But it ended up being one of the most important things about the film. You see, Child's Play came out in the midst of a huge morality movement. The 80s were a weird time. The previous 2 decades were all about peace and love, man, which meant sex, spiritual exploration, and lots of drugs. But it also meant Jonestown, the Manson family, Ted Bundy, cult murders, child abuse, kidnappings, and serial killers started getting a lot more attention. It started with milk cartons and then on the news and in movies. It's no coincidence that Chucky's name is based on 3 actual killers. Then we got Ronald Reagan, televangelism, and the rise of fundamentalist Christianity. The perfect storm of moral panic. A lot of it centered around the safety of children. People were scared. With so much perceived evil in the world, much of it with the potential to harm kids, there had to be a reason for all the pain. Instead of taking a step back and looking at our society as a whole, it was decided the possible reason was Satan. The Church of Satan opened in 1966, mostly as a counterculture group focused on humanism, but many religious folks saw it as an abomination and part of a larger problem. Fear of the occult has gone on for centuries, just look at the Salem witch trials. But this was a unique situation. There was a strong belief the devil was real, he was here and was working to steal the souls of American children. It could lead to possession, anarchy, the apocalypse. This wasn't just a religious scare, Satanic Panic was an actual public menace. From the mid-80s into the early 90s, hundreds of teens, parents, and daycare workers were accused of abusing or killing children in satanic rituals, mostly based on testimony from the kids themselves using a now debunked hypnosis technique called recovered memory therapy. The most famous case at the time was the Mcmartin Preschool trial. It started in 1987, just 1 year before Child's Play came out, and ended after 3 years with 0 convictions. Children's books taught kids how to tell mommy their teacher was a devil worshiper. Cops were trained in how to detect satanic activity, targeting followers of the Church of Satan, as well as pagans and people who practiced voodoo. There was a huge emphasis on popular media too, how it was evil, corrupt, and designed to turn kids to Satan. Things like heavy metal, role-playing games, and toys, including, that's right, the Cabbage Patch Kid, the inspiration for Chucky himself. In 1986, Pastor G. Richard Fisher told his followers that Cabbage Patch dolls were evil because they're adopted and you sign a contract for them, which means Satan could enter your house through them. This might sound kinda stupid, but this was a real problem with real ramifications. People's lives were destroyed. Some ended up serving years in prison like the West Memphis 3. One woman in Texas was just exonerated in 2017 after 2 decades behind bars. America's biggest witch hunt since the actual witch hunt happened because of Satanic Panic. In that sense, Child's Play feels like the catalyst of that decade-long moral paranoia. Chucky wasn't just a serial killer who used a magic ritual to possess a child's plaything. He was literally their worst fears brought to life, an occult evil that targeted children. Which brings us to 2019. We recognize that Satanic Panic was wrong, Another McCarthy-like era of persecution that targeted people for what they liked and discriminated against actual religious beliefs. Nowadays, we have something else to be scared of: technology. One of our biggest concerns is how technology has infiltrated our lives. Whether it's in fiction like with Black Mirror or the real world. Feels like every day there's something new and exciting, but possibly terrifying. We fear it getting to the point where the technology we've created becomes something we can no longer control, which would mean possession, anarchy, the apocalypse. And much like Satanic Panic of the 80s, much of the anxiety now centers around how it's affecting kids. Like, I'm not saying they're two sides of the same coin by any means. What I am saying is both of them represent a common fear of something we don't understand. Who doesn't love a good haunted doll watch? But there is a reason the reboot has changed its hook. Chucky becoming a robot for kids isn't some desperate ploy for the story to stay relevant, at least not entirely. It's a natural evolution for this horror franchise that surprisingly carries a lot of narrative weight. Chucky changed because our fears changed. He truly is a smart toy, perhaps a little smarter than we gave him credit for.